we just heard parts of 7 different healing stories from the Gospel of Mark. Did you notice something peculiar about all of them? Anything stand out to you? Anything seem odd? Well, hopefully you noticed that each one of these stories in the little verses that we heard includes that pesky word that we talked about before, that word that Mark loves, eutheos. This Greek word can be translated as immediately or straight away or at once, or if we want to be fancy, forthwith. Eutheos is used by the author of Mark 40 times in Mark's short 16 chapters. In contrast, this word shows up in Luke only 8 times and in John's Gospel only 4 times. Mark loves for things to happen immediately. Even healing happens immediately. In fact, the verses that we heard from each story describe the very moment that healing occurred. Immediately, the fever left her. Immediately, the leprosy left him. Immediately, he took the mat and went. Immediately, her hemorrhage stopped. Immediately, the girl got up. Immediately, his ears were opened. Immediately, he regained his sight. Immediately. Fever, leprosy, paralysis, bleeding, death, deafness, blindness, all healed immediately. With just a word, with just a touch, in an instant. In all of these stories, not only does healing happen straight away, but there is a specific moment that the healing is completed. The man could not see, and then boom, he could see. To me, these verses sound impossible. And they might even sound to us, well, a little hard to hear, because these stories might mislead us about what God is about, or even cause us to feel angry or disappointed by God. Because why wasn't the person that we love healed immediately? Why weren't we instantly freed from pain or suffering? Why does healing take so long for us, if it ever comes at all? Why does healing not happen in a specific moment, but in fits and starts, in a step forward and a step back, in a spiral, as a wandering, uncharted journey? These healings in Mark happen immediately because they communicate meaning, not facts or science. They tell us of the urgency of God's love. They tell us of the pressing closeness of God's kingdom. They tell us what Jesus was like and about God's priorities. They tell us that God desires to heal all of us right now and draw us into wholeness and community. These stories don't tell us what might literally happen, because healing doesn't happen immediately. Pretty much most of the time, God works within the natural order of things. If a bone is broken, it's going to take time to mend. Now, might our prayers, our faith, our openness to God's presence speed and encourage the mending of that bone? Absolutely. But I don't know about you, but I have never seen a bone mend immediately. Healing takes time, whether a broken bone or a broken heart. Healing takes time and patience. The past 2 Sundays, we've talked about 2 other aspects of healing. First, that we begin simply by naming our hurt and pain, acknowledging where we need healing, being willing and able to see it. Second, that healing requires letting go of what was, whether how our broken leg used to operate or how our broken heart used to feel. We accept that our future will be different. Today, we acknowledge that even though Mark loves to say it for dramatic effect and theological punch, healing does not happen immediately. Healing means having that cast on our leg for weeks and weeks, and enduring the aches and the itching and the stiffness and the difficulty showering and driving and sleeping. It means giving up walking the dog and bounding up the stairs and accepting new limitations. It means asking for and accepting help with carrying in groceries or making the bed. It means patiently waiting for our body to do its mending work. Work that is unseen and mostly out of our control. And boy, our culture is so uncomfortable with this slowness and lack of control. We want results and we want them fast. We expect our Amazon order or 2 days in or less, and if it is late, well, we are pissed off. We want a pill to end our pain right now, and if our doctor can't give us something to take care of those symptoms, well, we are not happy. We want our grief tied up and neatly boxed and put away on the appropriate timetable. We do love our timetables and our multi-part stepped plans. Ken Druck, whose daughter was killed in a bus accident when she was 21, writes and speaks about facing loss and accepting change. He tells of meeting a woman who had recently lost her husband, and this woman said to him, "My new psychologist told me it should take a year to get over the death of my husband. Well, it's been over a year. What am I doing wrong?" So not only was this woman living with the painful grief of losing her husband, but now she was living with the pain of feeling that she was failing at healing, not doing it on the right schedule, not getting over her loss. Isn't that a horrific phrase, to get over someone? Healing does not happen immediately, or in a year, or in 2, or in 3. Ken Druck continued, "Grief has a life and a timetable all its own. Each of us comes to terms with loss in our own time and our own way. In my experience, there is no such thing as real closure. Healing is a lifelong process." And yet our culture encourages this myth that at some point we will be over our grief, that at some moment we will be, boom, healed from our pain. In 1 year or 2, or whatever the understood deadline is to be, we are supposed to have moved on. And sometimes those around us can become frustrated that we have not moved on quick enough. But those of us who have endured loss, devastation, and death, which, especially after this pandemic, I am guessing is all of us, we know that this is almost never the case. There's no timetable. There's no end point. There's no graduation into a pain-free life. It is a lifelong process. We can find new life amidst loss and grief and change, but it's a journey, one we will probably never finish. A process that is slow and not always within our control. As Shakespeare so wisely wrote in Othello long ago, how poor are they that have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degrees? I mentioned a few weeks ago Joan Halifax, the Buddhist teacher who spoke in a webinar I attended last month. She spoke of grief and healing and embracing the unknown. And she spoke of caterpillars. Caterpillars who spin cocoons or turn into a chrysalis, and then there is waiting while unseen transformation takes place. Joan Halifax said, "You cut a chrysalis open and you will not find half a caterpillar and half a butterfly. You will find a rotting caterpillar. You will find goo." It's a transformation that cannot be rushed. It cannot be cut short. It's a transformation that utterly changes the creature. And yet, studies have shown that butterflies can retain memories from their caterpillar life, despite the fact that this creature becomes an entirely different being. The past experiences remain within it. It is a dying and a letting go. It is a rebirth. It is a resurrection. And it happens unseen, slowly and quietly in the dark by the grace of God. Healing does not happen immediately, but the butterfly does emerge. I want to close by sharing just a minute of a video. Friends, though perhaps healing will come to none of us immediately, may it come to us slowly and surely and in God's time. Let us go